Hi, you Toonsters, and you're listening to Toon Travel. I'm Paul Siebert.
And I'm Faith Casto.
Every other week, we go back in time and we watch classic cartoons, and in this case, cartoon-adjacent media. How are you doing, Faith?
We are doing pretty good. I will be studying a lot this week for a nursing exam.
Oh, yeah, I got an English paper due. But to start our show off, we got some kind of sad news, and I hate to start things off with a bumper, but Nelvana, after over 50 years of producing children's television, has closed its doors up north. You know, they produced a lot of shows, some of which we've talked about, including Care Bears Family, Cadillacs and Dinosaurs, and Tales from the Crypt Keeper. Other shows they produced include the Beetlejuice cartoon, The Magic School Bus, and the original Clone High.
Oh, wow. Wow. And they just recently did this?
Yeah, it was like 2 weeks ago, shortly after we recorded our last show.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's a real shame. But I was just wondering, as someone who was born after the heyday of Saturday morning cartoons, what does Saturday morning mean to you?
I honestly typically watched cartoons on Saturday morning. Maybe not ones that aired specifically on Saturday morning, but I watched a lot of Tom and Jerry growing up on Cartoon Network, I believe, or there was another one specifically for older cartoons.
Boomerang?
Yeah, Boomerang.
Yeah, we didn't get that, but yeah, there used to be this programming block on ABC called One Saturday Morning, and they had a theme song that said 5 hours of summer every week. And to me, that's sort of what Saturday morning cartoons are. It was like this period where from 7 till noon, you had all this crazy programming, and it was all brand new, and you never quite knew what you were going to get.
Yeah.
We should probably talk about our defunct sponsor. Yeah, once again, I've signed a deal with a sponsor that is no longer with us.
You really got to stop doing that.
I keep thinking one of these is going to pan out. But yeah, our sponsor this episode is Like Cola, caffeine-free cola from the makers of 7-Up.
Kids, they need a lot of love and a little encouragement. But there's something they don't need. They don't need caffeine. That's why we created a new cola, introducing Like. Like doesn't add caffeine like Coke and Pepsi. Like gets its excitement from full, rich cola taste.
Was I really swimming?
You don't need caffeine, and neither does your cola.
Interesting.
Yeah, it was interesting because 7-Up traditionally marketed itself as the uncola, the complete opposite of cola, the drink for people who hate cola.
Yeah.
And this was basically their attempt at entering the cola wars. And the whole gimmick was that it was caffeine-free soda. And they had these commercials where they were basically trying to scare parents out of giving caffeinated soda to their kids.
Right.
And what ended up happening is Pepsi first responded by releasing caffeine-free Pepsi, which they confusingly called Pepsi Free, which led to a classic scene in Back to the Future where Marty tries to convince a person in the past to give him a Pepsi Free, and he thinks that he's trying to cheat him out of a Pepsi. It managed to stick around in some markets until the end of the decade, but it was never a big hit.
That's interesting.
So I also grabbed a newspaper while we were back in 1984. And on September 1st, in the world of college football, Mississippi Valley State defeated Kentucky State 86-0.
Wow.
Yeah, and if that sounds like a mismatch, that is because this was a standout week for future NFL great Jerry Rice, who would catch 17 passes for 294 yards and 5 touchdowns. Rice would play for 20 seasons in the NFL and win 3 Super Bowl rings for the San Francisco 49ers.
That's pretty good.
This was also a standout week for the Mississippi Valley State quarterback Willie Totem, who would set an IAA record for a passing for 536 yards and 9 touchdowns.
Hmm.
Also this week, Tina Turner scored her first #1 Billboard hit with What's Love Got to Do with It? Other Tina Turner hit songs include I Can't Stand the Rain, We Don't Need Another Hero, Better Be Good to Me, and the theme from the movie Goldeneye.
Ooh.
She also starred as Auntie Entity in the movie Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome. Speaking of movies, the top movie of the weekend was Tightrope, a police thriller starring Clint Eastwood as a detective playing a game of cat and mouse with a serial killer. #2 was Ghostbusters, which was still scaring up business despite being in theaters since June. #3 was Bolero, a notorious flop in which Bo Derek finds herself in a love triangle between a Moroccan sheik and a bullfighter. #4 was The Karate Kid, another summer release with a long life at the box office. And #5 was Prince's autobiographical Purple Rain.
Nice.
Yeah, a pretty good week at the movies, aside from Bolero, which is a ludicrous movie, but this is a family-friendly podcast, and I can't really say what is all going in it. It's just Bo Derek is an actress who had a promising career, and it just released bust after bust.
Yeah, I think we can all assume what happened with that movie.
All right. So, we have this time machine called the TOON, Temporal Observation and Orbital Navigation Machine, and normally we can only go back in time to Saturday mornings and weekday afternoons, but this week we really pushed the limits of it. We went back further than we've ever been before, and we actually watched a primetime special.
Oh.
And this means we may be able to go back and watch primetime animation. So, we could watch something like King of the Hill or The Critic, or maybe a lesser known show like Capital Critters.
For sure, for sure.
Laughbusters first aired on September 4th, 1984, and it never aired again. And this special was directed by Jack Regas, a TV director who mostly worked with Sid and Marty Krofft in the 70s on such programs as Electra Woman and Diamond Girl, The Krofft Super Show, and Magic Mongo. He also directed It's a Bird, It's a Plane, It's Superman, a 1975 TV movie based on a campy stage show of the same name. If you ever wanted to see an all-singing, all-dancing Superman, that would be pretty much your only option. He also directed TV specials featuring Sherry Lewis, Pat Boone, and Don Rickles. The special features cameos by Danny Cook from Different Strokes and Alfonso Ribeiro from Silver Spoons. Cooksey would go on to be a very accomplished voice actor whose many roles would include Montana Max in Tiny Toon Adventures, Milo in Disney's Pepper Ann, and Jack Spicer in Zowlin's Showdown. Ribeiro would star as Carlton Banks on The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. And our antagonists of this special, Hank and Hubert Gritz, were played by James Avery and Bill Saluga. Avery would star as Uncle Phil in The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air and voice Shredder in the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Bill Saluga was famous in the 70s for a character named Ray J. Johnson, and his gimmick was, he'd have this routine where he'd be like, well, you can call me Ray, or you can call me Jay, or you can call me Johnson, but don't call me Junior. And it would basically go on for several minutes.
Right.
He was also the spokesman for Natural Light Beer, which kind of surprising that Natural Light was ever big enough to have a TV advertising campaign.
Yeah.
Anyway, Faith, this was a very strange piece of television, and as I said earlier, Laughbusters first aired on September 4th, 1984. At this time, it was not uncommon for TV networks to have primetime specials to promote their fall lineup.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't expecting this one to have so much of a plot. Usually it was ones like, oh, hey, it's the cast of Family Matters, and we're going to talk about all the cartoons you could be watching on ABC this weekend.
Yeah, this one was very interesting to watch.
NBC also had this habit of trying to base their Saturday morning special off of a hot movie from the summer, but it was clearly made by someone who hadn't seen that particular movie. So they had another special called Back to Next Saturday, which did not involve time travel. And they also had one called Who Shrunk Saturday Morning, which was the same summer as Honey, We Shrunk the Kids.
Right. That
And
makes sense.
yeah, but it barely involved shrinking in the plot.
Interesting.
It was basically a stealth pilot for Saved by the Bell, weirdly enough.
So they took what was popular and then didn't run with it.
Yeah. So we watched Laughbusters, and our special would kick off with this very low-effort parody of the Ghostbusters theme song.
Smurfs make you grin. Let the fun begin. Yeah, who did they pin? Laughbusters! Snorks make you good fall. Have yourself a ball. No use to call. Laughbusters! She's gonna laugh at the jokes. Spidey will be laughing some more. We ain't gonna call. Laughbusters!
It very much felt like first draft, first idea is the best idea.
Yeah.
And the special opens up with a director named D.W. and his assistant waiting for the guest stars to arrive for rehearsals. Suddenly, the film is hijacked by a villain named Garglemore or Dent, who he's similar to but legally distinct from Gargamel from the Smurfs. I guess Paul Winchell was unavailable.
Must have been.
That or, Hanna-Barbera wanted money to get a live-action Gargamel, and we all know how well live-action Smurf movies turn out.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, Gargamel has vowed to ruin NBC's fall lineup because all of their shows are funny. To show he knows business, he has kidnapped the Smurfs. He also mentions the Laughbusters, which confuses the director. It should be noted that Gargamel and DW were actually played by the same actor.
Oh.
And, we don't talk about the commercials that much in our time-traveling adventures besides our defunct sponsors, but I spotted commercials for McDonald's and Kellogg's Raisin Bran.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Yeah. So, Gargamel, we cut to this dungeon where Gargamel has the Grits brothers, who are antagonists from Going Bananas, chained up. They are played by James Avery and Bill Saluga. Gargamel tells them that they are going to help him destroy everything that makes people laugh in television forever. Little high stakes. I mean, you cancel the NBC lineup, that still got like 3 other networks to worry about.
Mm-hmm.
Well, 2 other. Fox isn't around yet.
Which, I mean, apparently he's allergic to laughter.
Yes. And he almost gets taken out immediately because James Avery and Bill Saluga's characters think he's joking. So they break out laughing. He presents them with a list of stars from NBC's Saturday morning lineup and tasks them with stopping them from reaching NBC's studio in Burbank, California. Back at the studio, DW is lamenting that they need a computer genius, and in walks Murray the Boz Bozinski, played by Tom Bray, from the TV show Riptide. That was a TV show about 2 detectives, their computer genius sidekick, their cool speedboat, their helicopter, and a robot, which seems like too many things.
That's a lot in one show.
Oh, yes. Boz is accompanied by the Riptide robot, Roboz, and he has the robot called Spider-Man, and we cut to an animated Spider-Man, and Spider-Man is just swinging around, and we see the names of several cities around him. So the idea is that he is swinging from city to city, but I have questions because Spider-Man is a hero that kind of relies on tall buildings to get around.
Yeah.
So what happens once he hits the city limits? You can't just swing off little suburban houses and trees.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe he walks.
Yeah. So anyway, suddenly the sound cuts out for a bit. I guess we were having some technical problems on the TOON. And we suddenly cut to a live-action Spidey who has crashed into a giant piece of flypaper as the Grits brothers gloat. Back at the studio, Boz has tracked Spider-Man to a town called One Horse USA. And we cut to that town, and Danny Cooksey from Different Strokes is the world's smallest country western singer producing Mama, Don't Let Your Babies Grow Up to Be Cowboys. Alfonso Ribeiro from Silver Spoons is also there. I guess that meant Gary Coleman and Ricky Schroeder, the actual stars
Mhm.
of Different Strokes and Silver Spoons, were unavailable.
Must have been.
Yes, just like the actual stars of Riptide were unavailable. We got the sidekick from that one.
Yeah, seems like they were on a low budget that day.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Well, it could have been a meta joke because we had one of the cast members two of the cast members. One of them was an orangutan from a show called Going Bananas.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
So maybe the idea was since we're going to pair up Going Bananas with Second Bananas. Anyway, we learned that the orangutan's name is Roxana Banana, and she does not like country music. Danny gets a phone call from the boss telling him that Spider-Man is in trouble, and Danny needs a ride because he's 8 years old. Boz calls in Kit, the talking car from Knight Rider, who is by far the biggest star of this special. And I guess that also meant that David Hasselhoff was unavailable. Here's one confusing thing. Tom Bray is in character as the Boz, but
Mhm.
Danny isn't playing his character from Different Strokes. He is, quote unquote, a TV star. But Kit is real. I am confused about the structure of this universe that's being set up.
Yeah, I don't know.
Some questionable world building. Anyway, Kit picks up Danny, and Danny lassos Spider-Man and yanks him down from the flypaper, and they get inside of Kit and drive away. Back at the studio, DW is worrying about other stars like Kid Video. And they do a pretty good job of explaining that Kid Video is a rock band transported into a world of musical fantasy called the Flip Side. And we cut to the cartoon Kid Video. We're riding around in their spaceship tour van type thing on this surreal roller coaster highway. And meanwhile, in live action, the Laughbusters have set up a boulder, and Hubert accidentally sends it flying before Hank is ready in a comic mishap, and it crashes. And this kind of breaks the premise of Kid Video. It has knocked the band out of the cartoon world into live action. And have you ever seen Kid Video?
I have not until this episode.
All right. The premise is they're trying to get out of the Flip Side, which is the cartoon world, and back to the real world.
Mm-hmm.
So the bad guys in this special have inadvertently rescued Kid Video.
Maybe they didn't know a lot about that.
Band performs their song Video to Radio, and it's kind of a bop.
It was pretty good.
Yeah. And meanwhile, Roxana the orangutan is driving a bus around which freaks out the local sheriff, and we are informed that the ape has magic powers. We hear the theme song from Going Bananas, and it is definitely not a bop. And just out of curiosity, have you seen the movie Nope?
I don't believe I have.
All right. There is a scene in the movie where an ape goes into a homicidal rage on the set of a sitcom, and all I can think as they're showing these clips of a sitcom starring an ape was if this was the show that inspired Jordan Peele to create that scene.
Perhaps so.
Because if he was here, I would really ask if Jordan Peele had watched this show. Anyway, the Going Bananas crew give Kid Video a ride in the bus, and they are perfectly okay and on the way to the studio, so they are rescued. Back at the studio, Boz has put out an alert to Alvin and the Chipmunks, and we cut to animation, and they've redubbed an episode, basically. Dave, Simon, and Theodore are boarding a train, and Alvin is late, and Dave actually has to yank him in through a window, and we cut to live action, where the Grits brothers, a.k.a. the Laugh brothers, are plotting to steal Dave's briefcase, so they won't have the train pass and will get thrown off the train, and my first question is, shouldn't they check for that before they get on the train?
Yeah, they would have.
I know security was very different in a pre 9/11 world, but
Even then, I believe they stamp or like cut out like a hole in the ticket to show that they know that they're there pretty much.
yeah. So we briefly cut back to animation where the chipmunks have put on these very lame disguises, and back to live action where the Laughbusters grab their briefcase and run. Back to animation, and the chipmunks run after them. And then we suddenly see a live action train conductor with a stereotypical Irish accent. He throws the chipmunks off the train, which somehow causes them to become live action. And the way they do that is basically these mascot costumes.
Interesting.
Yeah, yeah. Well, again, I mentioned the director of this did a lot of work with Sid and Marty Krofft, and they did these big mascot-y puppet costumes all the time.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So he's going with what he goes. So, all right. So they're thrown off the train, and Boz and Rosebob send in a helicopter called the Screaming Mimi from Riptide to save them. And we have no idea what happened to Dave. Also, it's a little weird that it's 1984 and there were two competing helicopter-based action-adventure shows on television. Riptide is the one that's all over this special, the other one being Airwolf. And it's just strange that there were two helicopter-based action-adventure shows around the same time.
Yeah, I don't know.
So we had commercials for Wrangler jeans and Wendy's. We also had a commercial for NBC's Sneak Week, which featured Silver Spoons, Punky Brewster, and the premiere of Highway to Heaven, which was a show about Michael Landon being an angel stranded on Earth, walking around the country and doing good deeds.
That makes sense.
Right? Speaking of this reminded me, it's a little weird that Riptide is the show that is all over this special.
Yeah.
And NBC had a lot of big hits around this time. They had Silver Spoons, they had Different Strokes, Family Ties, and The Cosby Show was getting ready to premiere. I realized that presence would make the special age horribly, but that was a big hit. You also had action-adventure shows like The A-Team, but for whatever reason, they went all in on a Riptide and Going Bananas.
Yeah.
And Going Bananas these days is mostly lost media. You can find 3 episodes on YouTube, and one of them is Spanish dubbed with English subtitles.
That's interesting.
Back at his lair, Gargamore is gloating that he hopes Mr. T receives his little invitation, and we cut to a cartoon Mr. T. Mr. T was such a big celebrity in the 80s. He had a show where he was a gymnastics instructor who got sucked into Scooby-Doo style mysteries. It was a Ruby Steers production and ran for about 3 seasons.
That's fun.
Yeah. Anyway, the cartoon Mr. T has pulled up to a gas station in the middle of nowhere. He and his crew have been misdirected into the desert, and T concludes this is the work of the Laughbusters. We cut back to live action, and Hank explains that this is their one chance to end laughter in the world forever, which seems to have escalated things a little bit. I have questions about how they're going to do this. Hubert is going to steal Mr. T's bus, but the animated Mr. T catches him almost immediately. We go back and forth between animation and live action as Mr. T throws tires at Hubert. At one point, they just show a beefy arm sort of reaching out at Hubert to imply that the original Mr. T is there.
Yeah.
Which means they had to find a look-alike arm, which couldn't have been easy because Mr. T was a big dude.
Yeah.
And I guess this is why you couldn't have the A-Team in the special, and we had to settle for Riptide, because if you had Mr. T, the actor, and B.A. Baracus in the same universe, that had been entirely too much Mr. T.
Yeah.
We keep cutting back and forth between animation and live action, and the bad guys are sent packing. And up next is The Pink Panther and Sons, which is a show that has a fundamentally flawed premise.
Mm-hmm.
You see, the Pink Panther cartoons were famously silent, and they used clever writing and stylized animation to work around that. And this show's idea to work around that was to give was to surround the Pink Panther with characters who talked all the time.
Wow.
So the Pink Panther has two sons, Pinky and Panky, who are talking, unlike their famously mute father. And we see them riding. Pinky is riding on a bicycle and dragging his little brother behind on a wagon. This goes predictably awry, and Pinky has to turn his bike around and race to rescue his brother. And then he hangs him up from a parking meter, which seems kind of mean, does not endear me to this poorly animated Pink Panther son. And we cut back to live action where Pinky is a puppet riding a bicycle. It does not look as impressive as Kermit the Frog riding a bicycle in the first Muppet movie, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I don't think it would.
And the Laughbusters are doing the old Chuck Jones Roadrunner gag where they have painted a picture of a tunnel on the side of a cliff, and somehow the live-action Pinky just rides right through the painted-on tunnel, and Hank and Hubert pursue on a bicycle made for two and crash. I'm not sure if you've heard about this, but a few months ago, someone tried with a Tesla's self-driving system to see if it would be fooled by a painted-on tunnel, and it was.
I did not see that, but that's pretty hilarious.
So back at the NBC studio, DW and Boz are excited because everyone has made it except for the Smurfs and the Snorks. Right as DW is about to explain who the Snorks are, we cut to Hank and Hubert, who are in a rubber raft. And Hank explains that the Snorks' world runs on steam, and that he's going to block off their steam terminals. Hank has somehow reprogrammed a guided missile from Cape Kennedy, and we see it crash into the ocean with a giant crash. Things have escalated a little bit.
Yeah, that seems escalating from the previous things they've done to prevent the cartoon characters from making it.
Yeah, if they can hijack missiles, you think this could turn a lot more violent. But no, we see that the missile has crashed into a steam tunnel. Snorks ride along in their submarine, and they see a missile lodged into the steam tunnel. And Snorks, for those who have never seen the show, it's basically Smurfs but underwater.
Makes sense.
Basically, I believe the creator of the show worked alongside Peyo, the French cartoonist who created Smurfs, and they had a falling out, and he was like, I'll create a multimedia franchise. How hard can it be? And he made Snorks. Ran for 3 seasons, which, not Smurf-sized success, but that's not bad in the 80s.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like in some aspect it could have been copyrighted.
Yeah. But anyway, the Snorks ride along their submarine. They see the missile launch in their steam tunnel, and they easily tow it away, which was kind of anticlimactic. So we cut back to the studio, and all the NBC stars have been accounted for, but the Smurfs are still captured. We are informed that Papa Smurf and Smurfette are still free, though we never see her, and in fact, we later see her in the cage. So, glaring continuity error in this special.
Mm-hmm.
We cut to animation where Papa Smurf is reading a book on Garglemore. I guess someone wrote a biography on him and discovers that our villain suffers from a condition known as gigalitis and decides to use it against him. We cut back to live action where Garglemore is ranting and raving. Papa Smurf puts some kind of potion into Garglemore's breath spray, and this causes him to disappear. And I was wondering if, holy crap, Papa Smurf just murdered the bad guy.
Maybe he did.
Yeah, this is some escalation I was not expecting. I was expecting, I don't know, tricking the bad guy into laughing, or maybe he triggers the audience laugh track, which incapacitates the villain, or I was expecting something clever, but no, sometimes murder's the best answer.
Apparently so.
So we're back at the studio. Hank and Hubert arrive to discover they have failed to stop the special. Hubert suggests that if you can't beat him, join him, and everybody joins in and does a dance routine set to a reprisal of the Laughbusters theme song, The End.
It was something, all right.
Yeah, this is Faith, I have to wonder, what exactly are your thoughts on this? Were there any shows that piqued your curiosity? Did this make you want to check out any NBC shows from Sierra 1984?
Um, I didn't completely get to watch the entire thing, but from what I did see, it was an interesting premise, I will say. Not something I typically watch, but I think the vintage vibe of it made me interested in it, and it made me feel nostalgic. So I suppose I would be interested in checking out other things, maybe not that specific type, but
Oh, I think this was worth watching as a curiosity.
Yeah,
It's just very strange, and you're not going to see, they don't make television like this anymore
definitely not.
for good reason, but, it did feel, again, we mentioned that the director worked with Sid and Marty Krofft. In some ways, this felt like 70s television in the 80s, not quite dying yet.
Yeah, um, I'm trying to think, I had something. I will say this is different from our normal type of content that we cover on our show here. So it was a nice change of pace, I guess.
Yeah,
But I don't know, it was odd.
it was certainly an oddity. So, we're going to play a little game show, and we'll cue up the game show music. And this week's game is called Buster Busters. All you have to do is name the famous person or thing named Buster. We're just playing for bragging rights. You have to get 3 out of 5. But be careful because these are going to get progressively harder.
Oh dear.
All right. So for question 1, this 1984 movie inspired its own real Saturday morning cartoon, which inspired the first episode of Toon Travel.
I don't think I would know.
Oh, I was setting you up with an easy one. It was Ghostbusters.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Oh, alright. I think I get the thing now. Because I know we did Ghostbusters, and I'm trying to think, wait, am I supposed to be saying like a name of an actor?
it's a person or thing
Ah,
named
right,
Buster.
okay.
So, all right. In the original Tiny Toon Adventures, this rabbit is of no relation to Babs Bunny. But in the reboot, they're siblings.
Bugs Bunny?
Oh, it was Buster Bunny.
Oh.
Again, you have to work in the name Buster there. So
Yeah,
you're
that
you're
makes sense.
you're swinging and missing for the fences here. All right, but you still got a chance to win this one. You just got to get 3 in a row. All right.
Yep.
So, this famous boxer was a 42-1 underdog when he knocked out Mike Tyson in 1990.
Buster something. I don't know what though.
Oh, it was James Buster Douglas.
Interesting.
All right. Okay. All right. So, unfortunately, you've struck out, but you can still get a couple of points for bragging rights.
Possibly.
All right. This silent film comedian appeared in such movies as The General, Sherlock Jr., and Steamboat Bill Jr.
I don't think I'm gonna get this one either. I'm not actually sure.
Is that your final answer?
Yeah.
That was Buster Keaton.
Oh, okay.
All right. We got one last attempt to score a point here, and let's keep this going here. You can still get a little bit of bragging rights. This one is not going to be easy, though. His real name is David Johansen. This former singer of the New York Dolls scored his biggest hit with the reggae-inspired song, Hot, Hot, Hot.
Buster Jones?
Buster Poindexter.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, this was a harder game.
It definitely was. I feel like I should have gotten the first one if I would have thought about what the game was asking.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I not do a good job of explaining?
No, you're fine. It was on my end.
All right. Now remember, if you'd like to support the show and are listening to this on YouTube, please like and subscribe. When you subscribe to the Podcaster Society's feed, you'll get access to more great shows like Anime Deep Dive, Y Radio, Lizards Inc., and Gaming History 101. You can also subscribe to the show on Spotify. And Faith, I realize in our past few shows you've been talking about photosynthesis a lot, and I thought it was something young people did, like dancing on TikTok or committing crimes on Kick. But I can't help but notice you're literally a plant monster.
Yeah, I don't know what happened there. Maybe it was the radiation from the time machine. I've been looking a little green lately, haven't I?
Yeah, you look like Palmon from Digimon, and
Hmm.
it's given me an idea for a future episode. It's not Digimon for a future episode. I mean, we may do it at a future episode, but I was thinking for next week, we've talked about it before, and it may be time to rip off this bandage. I've been dreading this one, but let's do Little Shop, the
Oh,
cartoon
yeah.
nominally based on Little Shop of Horrors.
Hey, maybe we might even have a special guest star.
Oh, maybe. Well, we'll see you next time. Stay tuned.
See you later.